Hi, welcome back to EducateTube.com. My name is Sipsky, your host. I have a question for you. What does the Panasonic GH4, the Fuji XT3, and the Sigma FP camera have in common? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. Do you have the answer? Yes. All three of them does not have internal image stabilization. So today I want to talk about gimbal. This one I have DJI Ronin S, may be needed to stabilize your shot. So let's talk about it right now. So now you have the Panasonic GH4 or the Fuji XT3 or the Sigma FP, and you want to film your shot while you're walking. Obviously, it's not possible to have a good shot if you're not using a gimbal, because these cameras does not have internal image stabilization, and if they do have it, not all of them are that great. Like for example, Sony, even if it has it built in, it's not that great. So I would recommend you get the gimbal. Like for example, the one I have here is the Ronin S, the first version. Now I think they have Ronin S3, the third version, but I think any one of them is decent enough that will keep your shot stable. Now of course you need to know how to balance this gimbal. Now I want to talk about this because I recently filmed a long video for a church, and I find that one of the footage which filmed with the GH4 wasn't as well done as I wanted, because I was holding the shot myself and I was trying to keep it as steady as possible. Now thank goodness I have the main camera set and I can film that, and that's always going to give me a nice stabilized shot. Whereas the Panasonic GH4, I find that because I didn't bring the gimbal, I was holding with my hand with a monopod, and it's a bit shaky. So I had to use some post-processing to keep it stabilized, and even that doesn't look as good. So I would have to only select certain part of the image to make it look good, and it would transition between the main camera to the secondary camera, or the camera B. Okay, so definitely recommend it for the Panasonic GH4 or the Fuji XT3 or the Sigma FP. Okay. Now for your gimbal, this is what I recommend. You get the gimbal and then you get the monopod. So the reason for that is what I noticed when I was filming is that my monopod was actually also not as high as I wanted, because the shot is pretty high. It was on a stage, and so the monopod wasn't extended long enough. So if I had this gimbal here, this DJI Ronin S, this will be enough to actually reach the image that's required to film the scene. So if I had this, it would have been great. And in addition, having it on my gimbal, for example, all I had to do was just slip it in like this. Let me show you right now. I'll slide it in. There we go. And lock it. There we go. Okay, and it's stabilized. Okay, and then now I just have to turn on the camera. Just let me see if I can adjust it a little bit more. You just got to play around with it until you get the perfect balance in the gimbal here. Doesn't always going to give you, okay, then that's locked in. Like that. Okay, so it's done. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. Most gimbal that is well built should be able to stabilize a 2-3 pound camera with the lens. Okay, let me see if I turn it on now. Just the one thing with the DJI Ronin S, you have to turn on the battery first. Okay, and then you turn on the gimbal. There we go. And give it a second. There we go. Everything's ready. Okay, and so there we have a camera. Let me just turn on my camera here. Okay, and it's ready to go. Now the good thing is I have this joystick here. I can rotate the camera the way I want. There we go. And I can bring it side to side like that. That's great. And the thing with my camera, I actually have a leveler, so I would know whether I'm in the proper horizontal level. Yep, and it's on green, and that's good. So then I just move this around and I'm able to take the shot. The good thing is because I have a monopod, this thing's quite heavy. I will set down my monopod. Let me just bring down the monopod. There we go, see? And now it's elongated and is able to stand on its foot. And now this thing is long enough for me to move around. And it can go even higher than that because this monopod is quite long. And with the gimbal, there's about a foot or more of it. And the camera, I can pretty much allow it to film higher than my height, right? I'm a bit short, but it could go probably about at least 6 foot on this monopod and the gimbal itself, okay, the extension of the gimbal. So you can see that this is pretty useful. And the thing is, you want to do that is because, see, if I put it on its foot, the monopod, it can stand on its own, and so it's not going to be as shaky, right? Even with you holding the gimbal, you might get some jittering, okay? So I don't think it's perfect. So it's better that it has a stabilized footing with the monopod, and then and it's also not tiring as well as holding on to the gimbal, and it works really well, okay? And this is what I should have done when I was filming that video, that long take video. But you know, thank goodness I brought 2 cameras, the main camera and of course the secondary camera, the B camera, and I was able to do the editing and it works really well actually. The film looks good and I'm pretty proud of it. And yeah, if I had this gimbal, it would probably made it a little bit better and I would be able to get a shot that I really wanted on the secondary camera, right? But other than that, you learn from your mistakes, and you know, as long as you know how to edit properly, I think the footage will turn out good enough, okay? As you progress with your filming, you realize that certain tool is needed at certain time. And so if you're like using one of the camera as a secondary camera and you're moving it around quite a lot, definitely you need a gimbal, right? Especially for the camera that doesn't have internal stabilization, like the GH4, the Fuji X3, and the Sigma FP. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and also don't forget to give me a little heart of appreciation. Thank you. Bye.